Okay guys, we're back with another video. This time it's on what we're calling Graphing 101. This is just kind of the baseline, the stuff that we all need to know to be able to talk about graphs and start to make them. If you get this down, you're going to really get the fundamentals of graphing, and then what we're going to do is practice a lot of it in class.
And this is throughout the whole year too, it's not just...
Yes, you're going to do this your entire academic career. You're going to do this through all of school.
So there's lots of different types of graphs, and one of the most important ones that we use is called the line graph. And the reason for that is because it's really good at displaying data that changes, which is usually what we're looking at in science. Things are changing as we modify stuff. There's this term that we use a lot of times called continuous, which is literally means changing constantly. So it's always moving, always changing as you kind of move through the data.
You'll see this with things that have to do with time a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or if you're increasing, like taking measurements at certain temperatures, the temperature is always increasing.
Yes.
You know, we'll talk about specific examples. So the next one, and you guys have probably seen these before, are bar graphs. Now bar graphs are used when you're taking different groups and you're actually comparing them. So bar graphs are used for comparison, not necessarily to show the change in something over time. That's what a line graph is for.
Yep.
Pie chart. Pie. Pie chart's really good for taking a whole group of things or a whole big set of things and then pulling out maybe percentages or certain numbers of that. So the way you're going to see these things a lot is, say you've got a population or a group of things, or say like we've got 22 students and 50% of those students like pizza. You'd see the pie cut in half and it would show 11 students like pizza.
All right.
Another type of graph is called a scatter plot, which a lot of people confuse for being the same thing as a line graph, but it's not exactly the same. It's best for showing many points of data, and it's usually used to find general relationships or trends between lots of different data. And what you oftentimes will see them put, and this is why it gets confused a lot of times with line graphs, is they will oftentimes put what's called a best fit line in there. And the whole purpose of that best fit line is to kind of try to show the generalized trend from the scattered dots.
Yep. All right, so the first item in the graph that you're going to have, which you guys have probably talked about before, is a title. Now, one thing that we're going to expect from you, it's not just that you have a title, but we actually want you to include both the independent and dependent variable in the title. There are those words again. You'll notice I made up a bar graph on this. That's the number of M&Ms that are in a packet according to color. Well, the independent variable is the different colors, and the dependent variable, what you're measuring, is the numbers. So you'll notice both of those things are in the title.
Another important part to all graphs are these things called axes. And the axes are basically where you're going to place your data. So you have to label them both. You have an x-axis, which goes along the bottom here, and then you have a y-axis that goes up and down. Think y like the sky, goes up high. Okay? Each of them needs to be labeled with exactly what you have listed on there. So you don't want to be weird about it. Just want to put, like, literally, if you're measuring time, just put time. And then the other big thing is you want to put your units. There's that thing again, units. You always want to have units. Nothing should ever be left without its close but your units.
Okay, next guys, we have independent and dependent variable. Now these guys are back again. We've already talked about what these things are. Independent's what we change. That goes on the x-axis across the bottom. Dependent variable goes on the y-axis, which is on the side. That's about all you need to know for this.
Yep. Another really key part, no pun intended, to a graph is the key. Sorry, that was really awful. Your graph should include a key. If you're graphing multiple bars or lines or anything like that, I would actually argue you should probably have a key for anything anyways. And this is going to make it so that you can distinguish between the different lines. So if you have like 3 different things you're plotting, you might have a blue line, a red line, and a green line. You want to tell us what the blue, the red, and the green are related to. And it just goes in a little box on the side, and just label it.
Mm-hmm. And then one thing, and this is going to be something that we're going to practice a lot in class, but make sure your scales are correct. You don't want to have a bunch of random numbers. What you do is you're going to have your boxes. You're going to make sure those boxes increase by the same number every time. You can't have one box and go, this is 0 to 2, and the next box is 0 to 8. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what? This is one of those visual things that we're probably going to do in class more than necessarily get into on this PowerPoint.
One note on that, guys, before I start talking about the line of best fit, is to remember you always put your numbers on the lines, not the spaces between the lines when you're making a graph. That's super important. Otherwise, it's way hard to read. Next, guys, we're going to talk about this thing called a line of best fit, which you use on a line graph. And Mr. Black alluded to this earlier. What this is if you're on a line graph and you have that and you're asked to make a prediction, and you've got all kinds of points all over there, and they're kind of going maybe in a direction, maybe up, down, or they seem to be grouped together. What you want to do is draw the best line you can through the middle of those to try to get maybe the same amount of dots on either side of that line, or maybe connect the same amount along that line. It's going to be a straight line. And what that does is it kind of gives you an average value through that group of data. So you're not going to get every line in there. Don't make a ziggy-zaggy line. You're going to want a nice straight line there to say, on average, here's where we're at. That's line of best fit.
The big thing is don't play connect the dots.
Yeah.
Do not play that. No ziggy-zaggy, no connect the dots.
And then this will be when you're asked to make a prediction and there is an obvious trend.
Right.
We won't ask you to do that if the
Yeah, if the dots are all over the place, we're going to look at that data again.
All right, so that's actually the last one. So see you in class and happy graphing.
Woohoo!